All right, welcome to day 2 of week 3 of season 7. It's a mouthful, but Campgrounds, we're here. It's Solar Pancake once again with Hiccup, and we are going to be seeing Borealis going up against Nurture in our B League, and we're not in Birch. Which one are we in? I can't remember off the top of my head.
We are in
Balsa.
Birch.
It was Balsa last time. We're in Birch. But both these teams towards the bottom of the standings here in Birch, unfortunately. Nurture sitting down at the bottom, Borealis right above them. So they're really fighting for this last campground spot here in season 7.
Yeah, this isn't the most ideal situation to be in, especially if you're Nurture, not only being 0-3, but being 0-6 on maps, being winless in the map category. So that it puts them quite a ways behind everyone else in the pack, not only having just no match wins, but then just not having any map wins either. They've had some close calls, but they just haven't been able to close out those maps and be able to get anything in the win column there or in their matches. So they're honestly, they're not quite in too deep of a hole to dig out of, but they really need to win today if they want to be able to have a shot at making playoffs. Because if you lose today and you go down 0-4, that is a really difficult spot to come back from, especially when there's only 3 matches left for them after this.
Yeah, and you mentioned a lot of close calls and maybe winning a map or 2 here or there. They actually took the number 1 seed Requiem to a 5-4 in their last match, so definitely glimmers of hope and, good sights ahead for Nurture, but they're going to have to go up against Borealis. We're going to take a look at those rosters here. For Borealis, we got PJ, Alfredo RG, Aurix on the DPS line. We got K-Mac, Big Brain. Oh, sorry, K-Mac. The hog threw me off. K-Mac listed as the tank player going in, and then Big Brain, Blue, and Mariposa on the support line there.
Nothing too crazy like we see from some teams with their preferred heroes, other than Big Brain throwing the hog into the mix, being primarily the support player. Obviously, K-Mac being the only tank, we're really only going to see K-Mac, but obviously everyone does have to play, so we'll see the DPS line swap up at least once, same with this back line. But in terms of preferred heroes, if that is to be, any indication of the comps, there's nothing super crazy that we may see come out, pretty standard stuff. It will be fun to see how they choose to rotate the DPS and how they choose to rotate the support. Sometimes teams have a more pocket pick with one of the 3 players, and we see them come in for the specialty map.
Yeah, looking over at Nurture, we got Ugg, Moonlights, and Bandit all taking up that DPS mantle. Why not? Gonna be the standalone tank. I think this is a pretty common theme here in B League that we've seen, is just having a standard tank. It kind of makes things a little bit easier. You can flex around it a little bit more. And then we've got Poofa, Starry Night, and Lovey Bug on the support line, and not too many other crazy hero picks. Moonlight's Farah, though, could be really interesting to see what she could do with that.
I think it would be really fun to see Moonlights potentially pull out the Farah. Now, granted, the map pool that we've got for the match today, I wouldn't say traditionally favors it, other than Rialto for map 2. If it was going to come out, we would see it come out potentially in map 2. But map 1 is Suravasa. I wouldn't expect that we'll see any Farah shenanigans in Suravasa unless they really want to try and throw off the other team.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see it. The skybox isn't super high there on Suravasa, so I would expect us to kind of wait to see that Farah. But our bans are in. Borealis went ahead, banned the Cassidy, so not really sure what we're looking for there. But then Nurture gets rid of the Mauga. I really like that. Mauga can be really hard to deal with on these flashpoint maps. He's got a lot of tools to engage and take these fights very quickly, so it'll be interesting to see how these bans shake out as we get into these maps here.
Yeah, I'm curious about this Cassidy ban from Borealis. Typically, Cass isn't a hero that you really will ban, as it, unless on the other side that there's a really good Cass player, you're not typically trying to ban it. So that could be a protect ban of some kind. They're trying to keep the DPS from being targeted, or they really just don't want to deal with either of, any of nature's. Maybe they've got a really good Cassidy, but as you said, I do like the Mauga ban from Nurture, because I am a known Mauga not an enjoyer of Mauga when he gets pulled out, so it's good to know that we will not see any Mauga.
I think they're haters. Mauga haters.
I was trying to put it nicely, but it'll be fun to not have to worry about the Mauga. But obviously that I would expect that we'll probably see a good amount of Orisa, Ramatra, or even Junker Queen. That is something that you see a lot of on not only just every map, but specifically on Suravasa. Flashpoint lends itself to having more rush style. You can't really play a poke a whole lot, so you're not going to see any kinds of Sigmas, and even dive is kind of harder to play on Suravasa with how tight some of those chokes are.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what they want to do with the compositions here. We didn't see kind of some of those tanks show their preferred hero, as those are typically good on Flashpoint. You can play Winston, but you have to be an extremely aggressive Winston team to be able to make that work. So I'm excited to see what these teams are going to bring out. And we are headed to India, like we mentioned before. Suravasa gonna be the place to start out. And when you're talking about Flashpoint maps, Suravasa is probably the more favored one of the two right now, but give it a week and a half, maybe the new Flashpoint map will surprise everybody.
Maybe, but yeah, when teams typically get a choice of Flashpoint maps, Suravasa is where we go to. So obviously the teams are probably pretty happy about the fact that they didn't have to choose it, they still got it. New Junk City, you really only see if you're kind of forced onto it. It just, some teams do like it, but you don't typically see it picked. Nothing too crazy, at least Borealis showing in the spawn. Well, maybe K-Mac chooses to play Roadhog.
And I mean, if they do choose the Roadhog, which may be why they banned that Malga. No, Nurture banned the Malga, excuse me. So never mind. I don't know. Borealis maybe sees that Malga ban and they go, you know, we can play the Hog now. But no, they're going to go to Hazard. I like that a lot. Going up against the Orisa, they're going to have to pick and choose how they're going to want to engage quickly, or else they're going to kind of get stalled out.
Yeah, and obviously Pufa we see on the side of Nurture, he's choosing to play the Brig, so obviously it's going to make things a little more difficult for K-Mac trying to get into the backline. PJ is going to have to really help him out in order to find a target. Oh, how Bandit getting caught out early. How does that's not supposed to happen on Sombra.
That is not supposed to happen. I mean, that is so early, and that's going to put Nurture on the back foot immediately. They aren't even going to be able to get in towards this Flashpoint, and first ticks are going to go over to Borealis here, and PJ already showing to be a menace in the server.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what if Bandit just kind of they're getting found again. This is, I mean, if you're on the Sombra, you can't be caught out on the flanks like this.
Oh, you can't get caught out, but now they are able to survive a little bit. Sadluel going to fall very quickly, so this might be the engage that Nurture needs, but in the meantime, Poopa's going to get taken out by Alfredo RG, and K-Mac going to clean up another. So what started out as an advantage there for Nurture is falling apart, but as I say that, UG make sure that they are not going to be left out of the Tracer conversation here, as they find 3. Why not going to clean up K-Mac? The Soj is going to fall as well. A good turnaround there by Nurture in what looked like maybe a lost fight.
Yeah, that's what gives you a bit of a benefit with this Orisa Brig comp, is that though Borealis does have a little bit more firepower in the front line with the poke, especially with Alfredo, it's really hard to take out an Orisa who's just, if you can't get to the supports, why not's not going to die? And that's going to give K-Mac and PJ a lot of trouble trying to navigate around to get to the rest of Nurture.
We'll see this Pulse Bomb get thrown out. Oh, I thought the Brig bashed back into it, but PJ's Pulse Bomb goes a little bit wide there. Sadluel and Bug are going to fall respectively, so one less support on each side of that. UG is going to throw out that Pulse Bomb, not going to find anything, and it's going to be Borealis that's going to find 2 picks. UG doing their best to keep Nurture in this, but they are going to back off. Nope, there it is. UG is going to contest for just a moment, and the flip does come back through, and now we're in last fight territory here for Nurture. Oh, Bandit.
If Nurture is able to touch, they do have a Terror Surge coming online, as well as their supportals and the EMP. Although on the other side, though, Borealis does have the downpour, and this overclock is going to do a lot in trying to zone it if Alfredo's able to get it up before Nurture can touch.
Yeah, and I think they're just going to back off. They lost their DPS so early, they're not going to be able to get to the point. I lied. UG gets in there, hits the recall. There is the downpour, blocked by the Brig Shield. Not much you can do against that. A good follow-up there for Sadluel. K-Mac going to take out Bug as well, and it's falling apart here for Nurture. They did get the downpour out, so I think if you're looking for wins, that is the win you have to take here for Nurture, and I think they really need to get to this next Flashpoint, and they need to hunker down, but it looks like Borealis is going to get there first.
Nurture's going to have to be careful in this approach because Alfredo RG has this overclock, and it's going to make it difficult for the backline and Why Not to really approach. So they have to be able to navigate around the corners and try and just zone Alfredo out, because if you can get in there with this EMP, especially from Bandit, and at least catch 1 or 2 people, that's going to be your opening for this fight.
That's going to be the opening. A lot of ultimates on board here for both sides. We may be looking at an 8 ultimate Q fest here, and it's just going to be a determination of how these ults are used that will determine who is going to get this first point to capture as it unlocks right now. Ugg gets caught out by PJ, a little bit alone there, and this pulse bomb in hand, this could be the moment they're looking for. Rally does get popped by Poofa. Pulse comes out, only gonna find the shield of the Brig there. Terror Surge gonna be used as well, and actually finds E there, and they are going to fall. K-Mac gonna get taken down as well, and this is a great start here for Nurture as they look to get back in this fight, but the beat is going to be used by Borealis. They think that this is winnable, and they are all very, very healthy. Nothing is really dying, and Poofa is being pressured so much. There's so much damage coming in onto this Brig. I can't believe she's still alive. Somehow, someway, Poofa survives. A great spear by Why Not keeps the Lucio off of her, and this point still has not been captured here. Poofa gonna walk into that slow field there a little bit and falls. K-Mac going to pay for jumping in very aggressively like that, and now Nurture gets the first point tick, and it's gonna be a reset for Borealis.
Yeah, and Nurture did get to keep the EMP from Bandit. They chose to use the other ult on the initiation, and Alfredo also kept this overclock, but importantly, Borealis also are coming back up on this downpour and this pulse bomb, and Nurture do just have this EMP to start things off.
Yeah, this overclock has to go big, and it's already going to start. Bug gets squashed. Ugg is going to find 2. Why Not finds another? The great counter rotation there from Nurture. Make sure that they aren't going to fall immediately to all of that damage. And that was a great response. A great stick from PJ, but going to die for his crimes at once. Oh my goodness.
Nurture just counter-rotated onto the backline of Borealis and just popped that EMP and caught everyone out while Alfredo was trying to rotate and try and catch Nurture.
Tried to catch Nurture. Poofa calling out the Jordan, and now we see how this point is going to be contested here. Not very long, but the recontest will come in. I like this. Nobody's going to fall immediately, and they can regroup, come in as an entire unit here. Why Not is going to go over to this Orisa now, and we'll see how they are wanting to push into this. That downpour not going to find anything. Now the Hazard's jumping in. A good telly from the Kiri is going to keep them up, but it's not going to be able to keep Bandit up enough. Sad Blue Whale is going to pay for the crimes. We got 3 more picks as well. This is going back and forth. Poofa doing their best to try to take out this Soj, but it's going to be Bug that gets that second pick. The bloodthirsty supports are getting what they need, and now it's just a Scottish man on the point, a 2v3. Let's see if they can deal with him. Tracer is back, though, and that is going to be a good hold here from Borealis. Ugg needs to get out of here. Pulse Bomb getting thrown out. Not going to find anything, and now Nurture's on the back foot.
Yeah, and there aren't a whole lot of ults for either team. Nurture does have this sound barrier from Poofa, and Mari does have the Kitsune Rush coming up from Borealis. Those are really the only ults, although Sabluwell and Bug will get theirs in the middle of the fight, and same with PJ's Pulse Bomb, which could be the difference maker, honestly.
All right, we do get the touch. Is going to be able to get that overtime Terror Surge and beat you. Sorry, just the beat use. No Terror Surge online quite yet, but the rest of Nurture is going to stay healthy. As I say that, Poofa gets slashed out of the air. Pulse Bomb being thrown onto Why Not, and that's one way to deal with an Orisa. If you can't kill her, just do a crap ton of damage right up front, and that's going to be a good second point take and map advantage here for the side of Borealis.
Nurture is getting the advantage in some of these fights with this Orisa comp, and they're able to catch Borealis when they're rotating. Why Not has now chosen to get off of the Orisa and has now gone on to Winston. So Nurture are all in on this dive comp, which means Alfredo and K-Mac especially are going to have to be careful because they're the ones that don't have quite as much movement as the rest of Borealis, and those... You're not going to... It's hard to dive the rest of Borealis if you're Nurture. So those are probably the ones they'll go after with a hack, especially.
Yeah, these Sombra engages are going to be crucial. We need to start off with a good manual hack and then go in. Bandit's getting dangerously close to this EMP. We're also going to be able to see a sound barrier and a Kitsune Rush. There is Bug popping that, the Magic Fox leading everybody onto the point. And now the pressure comes in. Ugg chasing down Sad Blue Well. They're able to survive For the time being, the Winston engage is in, and Borealis is now split very decisively, and that could cause problems here. Everybody somehow staying up, though, and we're going to have a lot of ultimates on board once again. The point did get flipped over to Nurture, but this fight is still ongoing here. Why Not jumps in, pressuring Alfredo, and that's exactly what you need. The downpour comes out, it doesn't catch anyone, and that is a disastrous start here for the side of Borealis, using ultimates in a fight where they had already taken the point, and now you're losing it. K-Mac just trying to find anything. PJ and K-Mac, though, they're going to be able to flip and turn this around quite aggressively here, even without the help of those ultimates here. And we should see a flip now over to Borealis, 55% here for Nurture as we move on.
Yeah, it took Borealis a second to really stabilize there. Their comp isn't quite as... You can't really play quite as split as Nurture is able to, and so it took them a second to really get any picks without getting picked themselves, but they were able to win that fight using only the downpour, so now they have 4 ultimates on their end to try and take this fight early and try and catch them in the choke.
A good EMP caught 3 for the side of Borealis, and now Nurture is able to walk back into this point, and we talked about it. They may have used a lot in the last fight, but this time they only need the EMP. They got out the Kitsune Rush and the beat from Borealis, so a big ult advantage here for Nurture in that fight. Now they have to go up against these DPS ults, though.
Oomfie does have the sound barrier to help just completely counteract Alfredo's overclock, and Why Not can go in a little deeper knowing that he's gonna get his Primal Rage up.
Yeah, the Primal Rage gets up. Alfredo gets taken out super early, and now the point is ticking up 92% and counting, 94. If you're Borealis, you are going to get the Sombra, but you're just going to give up this point, I would assume. A little bit of overtime tickage does happen. Nobody else is going to be able to touch. Oh, I lied. Okay. The touch does come through. They do want to re-engage. I would have thought that maybe backing out to the next point would have been the play there, but they opt to just walk in. They're going to die, and that's going to be it for this push. Borealis still has 2 more chances, really, to close this out. Nurture, they're still on the back foot, but they've got 4 ultimates on board now.
Yeah, they've got 4 to Borealis's 2. I mean, if you're Borealis, you can either try and use both your ults and try and get as many out of Nurture as possible. What you don't want is for Nurture to take this fight on their own terms and dictate how the pace and how many ults are used. Because if you're Borealis and you lose this fight and Nurture only uses 1 or 2, that's not going to look very good.
Won't look good, and here's the engage right onto that Lucio. Able to escape for the time being. Ugg is going to fall to the slash of K-Mac. Primal Rage is going to have to be popped. Kitsune going to be used as well to mitigate a little bit of this overclock, which is going to get found. Pulse Bomb found out. They found one, and it was themselves. That's not the pick that you want, PJ. You gotta find something else there. Sad Blue Will is going to take down Why Not, so this is still a pretty even fight, but it looks like Nurture is going to be able to get this first cap here. They do get the cap, but there's the downpour, not able to find anything. A good Suzu's going to prevent anybody sticking into the ground right there, but now K-Mac and the rest of Borealis are dismantling Nurture 1 by 1, and they're going to get a quick point flip here as soon as they dispatch of the Winston on the point. About 27% Borealis, a good recontest there.
I mean, if you're Borealis, not only did you win the fight, you've also got to be happy about the fact that you traded 3 ults for 3 ults. So now you have your 2 support ults against the 2 DPS ults of Nurture. And if Sad Blue Well and Mario are able to play this carefully, this EMP and this Pulse Bomb are not really going to do a whole lot to help Nurture win the fight.
We'll see where Bandit wants to take the team for this engage. They do know that the Sombra's here now. They have to be very careful. This Pulse Bomb from Ugg can go crazy. Kitsune Rush there from Mariposa with the different player name, in case you're wondering, from our previous rosters there. And now the fight continues onward. And now K-Mac falling dangerously low. A good Pulse Bomb onto Alfredo is going to find that Sojourn, but in the meantime, Mariposa going to find Bandit as well, as that Kunai finds its target. 78% and counting. Nurture has to really come back quickly together as a group to have any chance of salvaging this map.
Yeah, this EMP is all they've got. If Sad Blue Well is able to play it right, they're just going to have a sound barrier that they can pop and completely nullify the EMP. Or...
I'm not sure if Bandit got caught out, if people just weren't ready for how quickly they needed to touch, but unfortunately, no one's there. The point isn't touched. And now, we've got Borealis, match point. They're up a 1-0.
That's a very anticlimactic way to end a map. like you said, I guess Bandit. I mean, I'd assume Bandit was the one who was supposed to touch there and just got caught out on the approach. That is a heartbreaking way to lose a map. And now, obviously, there's the Borealis on match point as we go to Rialto as the second map, which is a very different. I mean, obviously, Escort as a whole, everything is different than Flashpoint, but in terms of like tight chokes, Rialto has long sightlines. So this map is going to completely change how things might be played. If there are any snipers in the hero pools of these DPS players, this is going to be where you pull them out. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see one of the teams choose to try and maybe ban a Hanzo or Widow if they know that there is the potential that it could be pulled out from the other team. But I mean, now Nurture, their backs are against the wall. They don't want to go down 0-4 to start the season. That is not, especially if you have postseason aspirations. It's not what you want to do.
Yeah, it's not a great start, and you can definitely fall into a deeper hole there that you've dug to put out that fire. They're going to ban the hazard. Nurture is, and I think that's a smart play. We saw K-Mac just kind of having his way with the backline there. Looking at the stats, it looked like Poof had the support for the side of Nurture had the most deaths for the team, and that speaks to maybe a little bit of a disconnect there on when people were going in or just being caught out. So Poof has to be a little bit careful, and with that hazard out of the mix, maybe a little bit easier for them to find their footing going into Rialto.
Yeah, and like now that we're coming to the second map, we might potentially see some substitutions especially in the back line on the DPS line. So, I mean, especially on the side of Nurture, if Moonlights comes in, if Borealis knows that Moonlights, might have a preference towards Afara, you could just ban it away. I don't know if, Nurture would want to try and play Afara on Rialto. You could. Or
I've seen it done.
Or we may see a sniper pick. But I mean, if Borealis, I would assume that they feel like they're the stronger team. So they feel like they could have the edge in any sniper mirrors. So we could see them choose to ban something in the back line that Nurture was trying to play. There's a few different options here depending on what Borealis are wanting to play. Because they could try and ban ban a Brig away, or try and even ban a Juno if you were wanting to do, especially if you're wanting to play and try and give you the advantage in the poke mirror potentially.
Yeah, you have a lot of different options, and you mentioned it. Rialto has these long sight lines, so if you are worried about the snipers, you could ban them. The other option you have is you can play extremely close on the corner, but yeah, they just don't want to deal with the Widowmaker. Borealis doesn't. We're seeing a theme with the Borealis's bans here. They don't want to go up against these very potent and lethal hit scan players, so they've identified someone on Nurture, whoever that hit scan player is, and they really don't want to deal with kind of that carry potential that they could bring with these picks.
Yeah, and obviously with the hazard and the Widow being out, I would imagine there's really only a few options that people typically will play. Like Sigma is the most obvious. Sigma Freya is a very common thing that you would see played on a map like this, or a map like Junkertown, or a map like Circuit Royale that have the longer sightlines, especially when the Widow is out of the picture. Ashe and Hanzo are also potentials that you could see with the Sigma, or a team could just opt and play an Orisa or a Ramatra. Anything other than those three tanks aren't super common. Like, you might be able to see a D.Va. It's just those sightlines are so long that if you don't have a tank that is able to either control those sightlines with a shield or be able to poke down them themselves, it kind of makes it difficult to be able to approach for the rest of your team, unless you just go like a full-on like Ball or Doom comp and just try and swarm around them. But even then, you have to go so far in order to get around them that it almost isn't worth it sometimes.
It might not be worth it. We could potentially see some Orisa picks too, just being able to survive longer as that tank and kind of just bully the other tank in front of you is definitely a strategy we've seen a lot of teams lean towards, as it's easy value, I guess is the best way to put it. Orisa, you push the button, you get a lot of health, you don't move, you spin, nothing hurts you. It's a good time. And you have the potential of the spear and no damage fall off on Orisa's weapon either. so it can make her a very potent poke threat here on Rialto. But these teams, they're just getting ready. We're getting the swaps in, and I think we do have some of those swaps. So it's going to be Big Brian coming in for Mariposa on the side of Borealis. And I believe RX is going to be coming in for Alfredo RG. So swapping up that hit scan roll, swapping up the backline a little bit there for Borealis. And the Nurture, it looks like we've got Starry Night coming in place of Bug, who we saw in that last map, as well as it looks like Moonlights is going to be in. So far potential is there this time.
Yeah, and Moonlights is in for Bandit specifically. So that would mean, obviously, we saw UG primarily play Tracer on that last point. So we'll see which way. I mean, I would assume that UG is the one that would potentially play the hit scan here. Obviously, Widow is out of the mix. So it's really going to be, do we see any Ashe or Freya come out? Or does UG potentially just want to try and stay on Tracer? It is a little harder to play a Tracer on Rialto because the flank routes aren't as... It takes a little while to get around to them, especially if the backline of Big Brain and Sad Blue Whale are choosing to play something like a Brig, playing something like a Juno, a Kiri, where they can just kind of leave. So we will see kind of, especially these hit scans and then the tanks of Why Not and K-Mac. That will dictate a large portion of what kind of matchup we're going to see, whether we're going to see a lot of poke or whether we're going to see dive or rush. Borealis, at least on the defense, looks like they want to try and play a sort of a dive comp with PJ K-Mac trying to just take out people on the just jump on people.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good start here for Rialto. If you can identify a lone individual, maybe the Moira used Fade, maybe there's no Suzu from the Kiri, if that is what we see Nurture come out on, you can easily identify that, call it, jump on it together as a unit with your Kiriko or your Lucio, and then just eliminate them. So we're going to have to see if Nurture is going to be able to take a map for the first time here in BPL as we start Rialto. UG coming out, we mentioned it before, was playing the Tracer. Moonlights is going to be on the Tracer this time here for Nurture. UG moving over to that Freya, so a lot of damage potential is going to be able to be dealt with that crossbow of hers there. And it's going to force Borealis back. They don't want to take a lot of this damage. Moonlights is going to try to circumvent them a little bit. And in the meantime, UG just gets taken out by K-Mac. I'm not sure if they overstayed their welcome or if it was a coordinated dive onto them, but there is a lot of damage missing now from the side of Nurture. They are just going to abandon the cart right now. They want to dislodge Borealis from this high ground, and it's going to be extremely difficult here as a lot of them have lots of mobility. Why Not falling dangerously low? That mech is now broken and gone. It's just a tiny Korean woman, and that's not a place you want to be in the midst of the other team here. PJ going to fall low, and this is just going to be kind of a staggered out fight as this cart is going to move around this corner.
Especially because K-Mac was taken out at the tail end of the fight. So neither team has a tank at the moment, but K-Mac isn't far from getting back. So Nurture can't really push in at all.
Can't push in at all. K-Mac is back, and they have to wait for that Diva to rejoin before they can really initiate anything. Moonlights and Pufa really wanting to take this flank and get behind Borealis and find anything, but they've already been spotted out, and maybe they need to look for a new route, maybe a new trailhead is what they need here at this campground. But now the fight is going to commence back up on this high ground where Nurture has been stalled out a little bit. Starry Night does have this Kutsune rush, as well as Big Brain. We'll see if either of them are opting in to use that ultimate here. K-Mac jumps in so deep, I would have thought he had a primal with that, but no, he just trusts his team. 21 health, 56 health. There it is, the crossbow bolt of UG finally going to take out that Winston. Both teams down tanks yet again, so a 4v4 on the field. We'll see how much Nurture wants to push this, as they're opting to just slowly poke at the team and not push the cart. And Why Not gonna go over to the Winston now?
Borealis are doing a really good job at keeping most of the team back and away. Though, like, they have their ult, they've been having a really difficult time trying to get any sight lanes and getting a whole lot of picks. And even just the rest of Nurture just can't get in.
and there's a Kitsune Rush. Match it with the blade. PJ finds 2, finds 3. The Genji's blade is able to find its targets without any trouble here. Nurture I think the bolo shot came out. UG has opted that they don't want the crossbow, they want the revolver. Moving over to the Cassidy, I think that's a good swap into what Borealis is playing.
Yeah, UG just wasn't really finding the purchase that they were hoping to with the Freya. RX has been doing a really good job at shutting down these sightlines, and now a lot of ults potentially are coming out.
Yeah, it's going to start off with the Kitsune Rush of Starry Night, and that's going to force Borealis to retreat a little bit. They don't want to deal with all of that power that comes with that path, but Moonlights and UG are going to fall respectively. Starry Night is next, and now it just looks like Nurture is just having a hard time identifying who they want to focus when they go in with these dives.
UG and Moonlight's getting taken out early there before the rest of Nurture is even really able to force anything onto Borealis, especially on the back of that Kitsune Rush. Your push is just dead. And now all they've got is this Pulse Bomb and this Sound Barrier going into this Overclock and a bunch of others from Borealis.
Overclock can put out there, but it's going to be Moonlights that is going to end that right now. Moonlights with the Pulse Bomb onto RX. Primal Rage from K-Mac just trying to cause confusion in the backline. That's exactly what it does. It has Poofa in the corner, and that is exactly what you want to do. Now there's no Lucio for the side of Nurture. That's a lot of healing gone, but Why Not is going to take out Sad Blue well. There's no music on the field for either team. Both Frog DJs getting taken out. UG is going to find K-Mac, and now this cart is going to push ever so closely, but Borealis should get another touch here, and they've got a Kitsune Rush to use with it.
And PJ's blade isn't far behind either, but this zoning Deadeye could do a lot.
That is a great zoning Deadeye. Oh my goodness, Sad Blue well tried to dodge the Deadeye and falls right into the river. That is not what you want to see. UG gets a good headshot. There's the Kitsune Rush. They still want to contest this. 0.08 meters. Nobody can leave the cart right now as it's been overtime for quite a while. A good shot there from UG, and the cart does get in a little bit of a C9, but not much you can do in a crazy situation like that. And now Nurture, they're able to continue and maybe build off of this progress here.
Yeah, Blue Whale, that was an unfortunate situation to be put in. I mean, when you're a Lucio trying to hit the roll in order to contest, and there's a Deadeye in your face, especially on that bridge, there's not really anywhere you can go. So, being down your Lucio in that fight definitely didn't help them. But now we're going to be seeing here, Starry Night has her Kitsune Rush up against PJ and his blade. That's really the only ults online that we'll see come out initially. Ooh.
Oh, and Starry Night gets the kunai and the shuriken to the face. That's a 2-for-1 combo there from the ninjas from Kanazaka. And now Big Brain PJ are going to fail the rest of them. PJ misses the dash a little bit. Poofa decided to jump in with Poofa. They've just taken a quick dip in the river. Don't look, no big deal.
I think the river has claimed 4 lives so far, and Sad Blue Whale has been 2 of... Borealis has 3 victims to the river so far.
you gotta listen to the river. Like, I mean, what can you do? Follow the flow. Don't swim against the current. That's about all I can give you. But now UG is going to start off this fight well. PJ going to fall, and this cart can now progress. Kitsune Rush from Starry Night is going to help this team push forward, and that is going to be 2 picks there for the side of Nurture. And now they are rolling UG on this Cass. We saw the Cass ban on the first map, and maybe this is why Borealis does not want to deal with UG on this Cowboy. A good zoning Deadeye once again is going to force PJ on the Genji back. The cart does get capped, and Poofa, oh, and K-Mac used the Primal Rage to contest, doesn't quite get there in time, not able to find Poofa either, so Borealis is going to be on the back foot here.
UG 2 for 2 on the zoning Deadeyes, and I guess technically they did get a pick the first time by setting Sad Blue Whale into the river. So now PJ still has this blade. Borealis has the ult advantage at this moment, and they're going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, they go very fast. That's what you need to do. They're going to invest the blade as well, but not able to get to Poofa before that beat can be dropped. And now PJ has to back up, and no kills with the blade is going to be found. And that Kitsune Rush not going to find any value yet either. Pulse Bomb gets thrown out by Moonlight, not able to find anything. And the excuse me, the overclock there from RX is going to fall with nothing. That's 3 ultimates now for the side of Borealis that didn't find anything, and RX is going to mirror the Cassidy.
Yeah, and now all Borealis has is Sad Blue Whale Sound Bear into 3 ults from Nurture.
3 ults, and this is where the fight is going to take place. And Kitsune Rush is going to be used by Starry Night to keep everybody up, get all of that pressure in. Deadeye comes out, Big Brain's going to fall, Brian's going to fall before that beat can be found. There, Sad Blue Well does get the rest of the team of Borealis, and they're able to survive just for a second longer. A Primal Rage in the backline is going to find PJ, and now Sad Blue Well takes out Poofa. Some Lucio on Lucio violence. Arik's going to take out Ugg. Blue Well is going to fall. K-Mac is so low. Why Not does get it, but it's not going to be enough. 40 seconds and counting here for Nurture to push it the remainder of the way here on second.
I mean, not only did they hold, Borealis were able to hold despite only having the sound barrier into the multitude of ults that Nurture had. Now Nurture doesn't have anything coming into what's probably going to be a final fight, and all Borealis has the Primal Raids to help stall things out, and RX is going to get their chance to try and zone people out with their Deadeye.
Yeah. That Deadeye is going to have to come in clutch here for Borealis. K-Mac is going to be able to stall this out with the Primal Rage as well. Falling extremely low and has to pop it immediately. Ugg and Poofa finding the brunt of that. PJ getting the deflect kill, and now Poofa and Ugg are out of the fight. Why Not is gone as well, and there goes Moonlights. And what looked like a really good push comes to a halt here on second. 78 meters on the board, and Borealis has their win condition for the match.
Yeah, Nurture had a good amount of momentum going into point C after kind of how they rolled into second point, but they just couldn't quite finish out the fights at the very end. Borealis did a really good job at keeping themselves up despite being very low multiple times, and Nurture just couldn't quite get a grip in finishing off those targets, and so they weren't able to finish the map. And now, as you said, there is a clear win condition for Borealis to just take the series right here without the need of any extra rounds.
No extra rounds. And if we're taking a look at the deaths, I think it's important to note we've got Big Brain over here on the Kiri. Least amount of deaths. That's what you want out of a support, making sure that they're staying alive, they're keeping everybody else alive as well. So really great work there from Big Brain to get all of Borealis on the same page, keeping them alive. A great pick there coming into the game. And on the other side, not a whole lot that we can talk about, just kind of solid play overall. But now on this attack, we saw at times on Flashpoint Nurture have a lot of really good looks, and then when they were put on the defense, they struggled handling all of the pressure and the aggression, and we'll see how they're going to deal with Borealis here.
Nurture's actually choosing to opt for a Cassidy Freya defense, which into what Borealis is playing, I worry that Why Not's really not going to be able to get a whole lot done other than just contesting space. There is nobody to jump in with him.
It's going to be very difficult. Maybe you send Starry Night, but I'm not sure that's the right play. Not what Van Gogh intended at all. K-Mac going to mess up the jump to the high ground a little bit, so opting to just push the cart forward. The rest of Nurture has already abandoned the high ground, except for Oog. Oh, I thought he was gone, but he somehow survives. But it's going to be Why Not that falls back to what you were talking about. There's nobody there to support him once the dive comes in from Borealis. He's separated, and now he's left alone on the cart to fall to Borealis.
Yeah, I would love to see Why Not just go to something like a Diva, or even it's going to be really difficult for him to get a whole lot of presence into Borealis when the rest of his team, specifically Ugg and Moonlights, can't really follow up on anything. We see a wild flank here.
It is quite the flank, but it is going to be
the river again.
Sandwell's going to get the boop. The river's claimed another life. Somebody make sure these teams have life jackets. This is going crazy here. PJ, Sad Blue Well going to take out, and that's going to be a clean first point take here for Borealis. 5 minutes on the clock.
I wouldn't even call that. Oh, they're trying to catch the staggers here.
Oh my goodness, the staggers, they are in deep. They do not want Nurture to get anything out of this. Poofa and Why Not are just doing their best to survive. They're able to fend it off for the time being. They've got a full regroup. So now comes the hard part. Can they handle the aggression from Borealis? And if first point is any indication, I would say that it's going to be a tough road ahead for them. Starry Night's going to start it off right, though. Moonlight's going to follow it up as well. 2 picks here, and that is how you want to start off a defense for Nurture after getting rolled on that first point. The river takes another life, but this one was an intended life at this point.
I'll say that this point will be a little bit better for what Nurture's wanting to play. There's not, Why Not can't really go as far in because of this hard corner, so it allows Ugg and Moonlights to help support him a little bit better. Because on first point, Why Not didn't have any support. We saw him go in and get picked off early, but now that they can just sit on this corner, Why Not can just anchor the corner and not really feel like he has to go in very far.
Yeah, the second point's going to be a lot better. Both Kitsune Rush is going to be popped by those Kunoichis. The beat is going to come out. It's only going to find RX. Actually, the bubble does break in against the rest of Borealis. The blade gets popped. There's a high noon. PJ's running for his life and not able to run far enough. The wall climb not able to help the ninja. In this case, Cowboy gets his mark. And now the rest of Borealis does decide to go in as Ugg committed a little bit too far. And now that payload might be able to get a lot of presence going forward. Poofa going to fall. Why Not does have this Primal Rage, does decide to invest it to stall this out a little bit here, and K-Mac is going to pop his in return, but he's gonna have to deal with this crossbow and the bola shot, everything being used against this Winston, but it's not gonna be enough as the Genji comes in to help. Does pay for his sins. Ugg going to find PJ on that Genji, and now this is just a back and forth matter here. Borealis needs to regroup before that contest can come in.
Yeah, all those ults used for both teams leaves just RX and his overclock for this next fight, and that may be what allows Borealis to try and take some more zoning presence.
Yeah, that overclock is not something to be trifled with. They're looking for the single, they're looking for the go button, and there it is. They're going to take out Moonlight, who fell a little bit too fast there. Why Not tried to zone it, but it's not going to be enough. The railgun from the former commander-in-chief of Overwatch is now too much for the side of Nurture. This cart's going to get pushed into second with a very healthy time bank, and they don't even have to push the cart to the very end.
Yeah, I mean, that would you don't have the ult to match it if you're Nurture, and we saw Moonlights get caught out, and Why Not tried to go in to zone it and just kind of got burst down, and we now see him swapping over to the Ramatra, which is a lot better on this final point. You're not really wanting to go very far, and you can anchor these corners a lot better, but it will make it a lot more difficult to try and peel for your backline.
Yeah, that Kitsune Rush is going to force them back from that corner immediately. Ugg is going to fall. Great focus fire there from the side of Borealis to take out Nurture, and that's a lot of damage done. Kitsune Rush going to be popped by Starry Night as well. Poofa falling very low, able to survive for just a moment as PJ's not able to find any purchase with those shuriken. And now this is going to be a messy fight. Why Not has already used that form and now is going to be a lot more vulnerable to damage going forward. Poofa does have this beat, but they have to know that PJ is getting close to this blade. This could be a big determination. Ugg is going to fall. That might cause the beat to come in early. The beat comes out, but not before Starry Night's gonna fall to the blade. Poofa is next. Moonlights is only a few seconds away from death. The sweet, sweet reprise of death, and now it's Big Brain that's coming in. PJ's going to fall them, and that is going to be it. Borealis is going to take the match 2-0, and unfortunately, Nurture, still no map wins, and still no wins on the board for them here, as they are going to fall to 0-4.
Yeah, that is... Nurture now finds himself in a pretty deep hole that is going to be not only hard to try and climb out of, but even if they do manage to rattle off 3 wins to roll out the regular season, that may not be enough to be able to get to the cusp of where the postseason cutoff is. Losing 4 straight that does not set you up for a lot of success on the back end. The bright side for them is that 2 of their losses did obviously come to Requiem and Daybreak, who sit at the top of the standings, so potentially that gives them a little bit more hope going into the remaining 3 matches that they would have, but it's going to be a tough battle. And obviously now for Borealis, winning this match helps them sit right in the middle of the Birch standings, and with an extra more win or 2, that can help them get into the top half as they sit just basically 1 map win behind School of Rush there for the 4th and 5th spot.
Yeah, and they did play School of Rush earlier this season. They lost in a 2-0 there. So this is kind of where you expect Borealis to be just based off of previous results. But like you mentioned, we're at about the halfway mark. They've got 3 more matches to play. So there's definitely potential for Borealis to make their way up into these standings here in the Birch side of our B League. But that was quite a match. I think if you are a fan of Nurture or you're just cheering on the underdog, Hope isn't lost, but it is a very, very slim chance of hope. There's not a whole lot that can be done. They've got to climb out of that hole, and Borealis is on an upward trend, so it'll be exciting to see over the next couple of weeks how these teams shake out.
Yeah, I think Borealis is in a really good spot moving forward, especially off the back of K-Mac. I would say that K-Mac did a lot in helping his team be able to win this match. He didn't have to really swap tanks really at all. We saw Why Not trying to figure out whether to play the Winston, whether to play the Hazard, whether to play the Orisa, and he wasn't able to find any footing. Whereas K-Mac on both maps just kind of said, I'm just going to play this, I'm going to come out on this tank and just kind of have my way with your team and dictate the flow. Nurture seemed like they were always on the back foot outside of maybe just a handful of fights. Borealis just dictated the pace the entire way.
It dictated the pace, and that ended up giving them the win, but that's going to be it for this match. Next up, we're going to take a look at our schedule. So here on this channel, you'll get to see us once again, Solar and Hiccup, going, and we will look at Noctis versus Oomfie University. And over on the main channel, Ignite Memories going up against AR High Noon. And then later tonight on the main channel, you're going to see BOA going up against Log Racers.
Yeah, it should be fun, especially that Ignite Memories AR High Noon match. Those teams are just above Nurture and just behind Borealis. So they're sandwiched by the teams that we just saw. And the winner of that one will get a much needed boost to keep themselves in contention to try and get into that top half. Whereas the loser of that will drop to 1 and 3. And that's not really where you want to be in this Birch side of B League. Whereas for us staying here, we'll be going to the C League for Noctis and Oomfie University, who sit in a log jam almost in the middle of the C League.
Yeah, it's definitely a log jam, and it's going to be quite a fun match. So make sure you stay tuned. We're going to go to a quick break as we wait for those teams match to come up, but we will be on the other side, so we will catch you guys then. Don't go anywhere.
sage brings the rite of spring. Morning dove and the sparrows sing. Through the light that the sun will bring, reborn. Plots are creeping on the wall. Swallowtail heeds the northern call, and the last of the frost will thaw, reborn. In the warm of the spring.
All right, welcome back from that break in B League. We saw a very fun match, and now we're jumping over to C League. It's myself, Solar, again here with Hiccup. We're going to be seeing Noctis go up against Oomfie University. We touched a little bit on it in the previous outro, but they're kind of in a logjam in the middle of C League here, Hiccup.
Yeah, C League does find itself in a fun little situation here in week 3, where there's a handful of teams all kind of only separated by map differential in spots 2 through 5, and Oomfie and Noctis kind of are sandwiching either end of that 2-in-1 log jam. Oomfie obviously has the slight lead over there with the 3 map differential, Noctis on the bottom, which is the +1 map differential. But other than that, there's not a whole lot that separates them, Log Racers, Goatman, and Noctis. Both teams did play Goatman. Oomfie played them Oomfie played them last week, and Noctis played them 2 weeks ago. That is the one shared opponent, and Oomfie took care of business and took Goatman out 2-0, whereas Noctis fell 0-2. That's really the only big head-to-head we have for these two teams. Other than that, it's fairly similar across the board here, just in this middle of the pack.
Yeah, it's very similar. Like you mentioned, this match will have a lot of implications for how the remainder of the season will look and kind of what the prospects are for both of these teams. So a lot on the line as we get ready to look at the rosters here for the team. We're going to start off with Noctis. We've got something unusual that I don't think I've ever seen. We've got 3 players opting for these tanks here. We've got Koi, Ono, and Dixie. Virgil, the lone DPS, not sure that that's gonna stay just based off of how Overwatch is played. And then we've got Puppet, Thinking, and a Hop on the support line there.
Yeah, Koi is eligible to play tank and DPS, so I would imagine that Koi, as indicated by the preferred hero, will be joining Virgil in the front line, and then we'll see Ono and Dixie swap between the maps, and then we'll obviously see the back line of Puppet, Thinking, and Hop. I would assume, just based off of preferred heroes, that we will see Thinking most of the time, preferring to play that Brig and probably playing something like Lucio and even Juno sometimes, and we'll see Puppet and Hop swap in the middle of the game. But other than that, it's really going to be it isn't many times where the DPS line is the one where it's just 2. We won't see any swaps on that front, especially coming from the last match where it was, only 1 tank on both sides. But now we have Noctis in a situation where I guess technically they do have 3 tank players on the roster.
Yeah, that they do. It's kind of, blessing in disguise, or maybe a little bit of a burden as they decide, which tank they want to roll out with. So be interesting to see what Noctis does. But as we move over into the other side for Oomfie University here, it'll be really interesting to see what they decide to go with. And this time, yet again, we've got 1 tank, so Claybird going to be in that front line holding everything down. You've got Ronan and Xlara going to be on the DPS, and then we've got 4 people registered on support, everybody, so maybe a full swap of backlines. We got Denji, Panini, Obama, and Goslin.
Now, Denji is also similar to how we saw Noctis. Denji is also registered to play tank as, preferred hero of Hazard. So we'll either see Denji potentially swap in for Claybird, or we'll see Denji swap in onto that backline. If they do choose to have Denji as support, we may see full sale swaps in the backline between maps for Oomfie University, which isn't typically something you really want to have to do if you can help it, because that does shake up comm rolls a little bit, especially if in practice if you're having to swap your backline every single map. That does kind of change how things flow. So we'll see how Oomfie University choose to approach the roster options that they have before them. and what they choose to do with. And they may choose to put Denji in on tank or in on support to potentially throw Noctis off, potentially. We'll see what they choose to do as we roll through the series.
It'll be very interesting, and we're actually going to be starting off this series going into New Queen Street, and we've talked and touched on it before. New Queen Street is one of those maps where anything can happen. We can see some Faras, we can see some ball comps, like really anything goes on New Queen Street, and it'll be really interesting to see how these teams go forward and what they want to ban and how they're wanting to set up these compositions here. And I do believe we have the bans in for New Queen Street right now. We've got Noctis taking out the Cassidy, so second time today we've seen the first team banning out the Cowboy himself, and then Oomfie University taking out the Kunoichi. No Kiriko going to be present here in Canada today.
With the Kiriko being banned and the Cassidy being banned, it seems like the teams are wanting to almost ban opposite styles of play, because typically if you're banning the cast, that's indicating that you might want to be able to play a little bit more dive, or they're protect banning. Like, that's obviously always an option. That's always a possibility. But just off of face value, if you're banning the cast, that does indicate that you might want to potentially try and play some dive, and you don't want to worry about the zoning presence that cast can bring with that flash grenade. But on the other side, Oomfie University bans the Kiriko, something that you would usually want to play either in a Queen comp or in a dive comp. So Oomfie may be wanting to try and force something more to like a Bat Brig or a Brig Juno or even a Brig Ana backline, and not want to worry about an all-in dive comp that may come with like a Lucio Kiriko kind of comp.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what these teams decide to do as they head over into Canada here, New Queen Street. We're just waiting for that lobby to get set up. But really, anything can go. We mentioned it here. You were talking on kind of the potential of this map itself and the chaos it can bring. I know that this is usually one of those push maps people tend to want to push to the side, if you will. I'm going to apologize right now. That was terrible. That was horrible. But we are moving into New Queen Street, the home of ice and niceties and poutine. If you haven't had poutine, go get it. It's delicious. I mean, gravy, fries, cheese curds. You can't really ask for more.
Poutine is very good, and I mean, it's not out of the question that we see Sojourn get pulled out. So I mean, home map advantage potentially.
There you go. Okay.
Overwatch doesn't work like that. But
what about Venture? Venture's Canadian.
Venture too. I don't think we'll see a Venture Sojourn comp unless they're wanting to just get the maximum non-existent home map buff.
There we go. There we go. It's definitely a decision one could make for an Overwatch roster. Going into New Queen Street, Venture not a hero we see all that often, which is a bummer because they are very fun to watch, and it's very annoying to play against. Flamingo, I'm looking at you. We screamed against you a couple days ago. That was a pain in the butt. But it'll be very fun to see what these teams do here on New Queen Street and how far they can push Timothy down the road.
Yeah, and like we've talked about, New Queen Street does open the door for a lot of potential comps to be played, and no tanks were banned. It was just the Cass and the Kiriko, so almost pretty much anything is possible depending on what the teams have in their hero pool, what they have in their wheelhouse. And with none of the tanks being banned, it is hard to say what we could see. Obviously, most teams are opting to play things like Orisa, like Hazard, some Ram and Winston. Is usually what you want. Is usually what teams want to see, but especially in the C League, a lot of that doesn't really matter. You can get away with a lot with whatever you are good with, and typically, I do like teams being able to fall back on what they're best at, rather than getting stuck in the box of let's play what everyone else is playing because it's good. Like, if you're not good at it, play something different. Just back in the day, if you weren't good at goats, it was a lot better to not try and just force it and just continuously lose week after week. And we see Oomfie University currently setting up to potentially play Doomfist. I don't know if that'll stay the case though.
Yeah, when you see that golden horse walking at you as you're just holding up that power block, and you see the spear coming right towards your eyes, you rethink every decision you made in the spawn room at times. But it is possible that they do find some value here in Oomfie University getting off that Doomfist, which I think is the right play. They're going to go over to this Winston composition with a soldier, though.
Yeah, we see differences in the DPS line. Oomfie are coming out with Ronin on the Soldier and Zlira on the Tracer, whereas Noctis are playing Sojourn and Genji with their Orisa. So Oomfie will be able to dive a little bit, but Ronin isn't going to have the same kind of poke pressure that Virgil really will have with this railgun.
Going to be very difficult, and Oh No is going to be able to just walk into the backline, causing that backline to say Oh No, but the rest of the team is falling back. Wow, my brain stopped on that one, is going to fall. That's going to be a great start here for Noctis, as they are going to get rid of that. Xlara going to go over to that Genji now, but Claybird going to find Hops, and they're going to keep jumping in here, trying to take out this backline. Not able to get the Sojourn, but the Brig might be next up. In the meantime, Oh No takes out the backline, the entire backline. Danny DeVito and Obama out of the picture for Oomfie University, and that's going to leave Claybird all alone, but they get the necessary picks. Noctis is going to be able to move forward here and get stopped by Oh No, and that's where the cart switch is going to happen.
Noctis will just have to be careful with Oh No on this Orisa to not really let Oomfie University get behind him. When you're playing Orisa, if the other team is behind you, there's not a whole lot you can do. Rather than, you have to just use your cooldowns to get back to your team. You really can't peel a whole lot. So you either have to go forward and try and catch someone like Danny DeVito or Ronin out, or just try and keep Claybird in front of you.
And there is that dive comes in, but it's going to be avoided here as Claybird is going to fall. Virgil going to fall extremely low afterwards as well, but they are able to take out Danny DeVito, and this is where the power of this Orisa composition can come in. Claybird can jump in and over the Orisa, but it's really just Xlara that can help follow up with that. Ronin's trying to take these off angles, but they're not able to find anything quite yet, and Magic Otter is going to fall super early, so this is a chance here for Oomfie University to get back in this, as Xlara is also going to find Virgil, and now Noctis is on the back foot. Thinking is going to fall as well, and this is going to be a cart flip here for the side of Oomfie University, but there's going to be a lot of ultimates on both sides in this next fight here, Hiccup.
Yeah, it's probably going to become a Q fest, and these staggers that Oomfie are able to get on the end of Noctis are going to allow them to get the positioning that they want and the space that they want to hold. Noctis just have to be careful that they don't get split. Xlara's wanting to go in aggressive at the spawn with this blade.
Oh my goodness, the Terror Surge going to be used as well to rip him back in. The rally going to be used as well there from Thinking, just to keep everybody up. Maybe wasn't needed, but it's an understandable ult usage there, as that Genji did come in. Danny DeVito going to pop a rally their own and goes swinging into the back line here. Visor going to be popped by Ronin as well, trying to find any targets as those crosshairs pop up on the screen, but it's really just going to be Oh No that's going to fall. Orbital Ray in the side of Hops, there to keep everybody up, but that is going to be the bot getting first checkpoint here and forward spawn here for Noctis. I mean, sorry, for Oomfie.
When things are getting chaotic and Noctis is split, that's what Oomfie is able to jump on. Their dive comp is able to get on those players that are off by themselves, whereas Noctis, as soon as they get split, their comp doesn't quite work as well.
And people tend to be falling early here for the side of Noctis. Hops down now as well. It was Virgil before that, and now Thinking. The back foot is all that Oomfie can find. They're not able to find any sort of anchor on this point. All the meanwhile, the bot is pushing that payload up the hill. Oomfie University is going to be able to have a good recontest here, and we are going to see possibly a lot of ultimates here used by Noctis. They have to be a little bit disciplined, but it's going to be Obama's Orbital Ray matched by the Orbital Ray and the Blade here for Noctis. The Blade able to cut down Claybird eventually with the help of Oh No. And now the side of Oomfie University being pushed back. Noctis moving forward. There's a Genji in the backline, but they only use 2 ultimates there, so not a huge cost.
Yeah, and they still have Thinking's rally and Virgil's overclock that they can use to try and aggressively take some space back from Oomfie University. They do need to be careful, though, that if they choose to use either of these ults aggressively and early, that they try and win that fight fast, because Oomfie's coming up on a few ults of their own, and if those come out at the back end of the fight, that's going to help turn it.
There's a Soldier Ronin on a mad flank here fighting Oh No. And oh no, having a tough time taking it out. Xlara coming to help out as well. Claybird and Ronan gonna find picks respectively here. And this is going to be Noctis on the back foot. This flanking soldier is causing so many problems as it splits the attention of Noctis, and then nobody's able to focus up. Oh no gets jumped past, and everybody's left to their own devices, thinking use that rally importantly, and didn't really save anybody.
Yeah, and now Virgil still has his overclock. Oh no's gonna have the Terror Surge, but Oomfie University's coming up on a few more ults of their own, and Noctis is gonna have to be very careful in how they use theirs to try and match what Oomfie's got.
I like this Terror Surge, but they are going to be able to just fly away from it. In the meantime, thinking is going to fall to the Winston. Virgil pops the overclock and finds one. Can they find another? They need something to help out Noctis get a little bit of stability here in this match. All the meanwhile, Ronan's on this flank being forced out. In the meantime, Magic Otter and Oh No are going to fall. Where it looks like Noctis might have a chance, everything falls apart. Xlara is going to pop that blade and find Hops and zone the rest of Noctis in the spawn room here. It's just going to be a couple of stagger touches onto the point of Magic Otter and thinking moving over to that Lucio, but it may not be enough. O'Neill is there, and they do have a little bit of survivability on that Orisa, but that's a rally by Danny DeVito, keeping everybody on Oomfie University up. And now Oh No is screaming those words into the microphone. I am sure that is going to be a team kill and a 100% push here on New Queen Street. Oomfie University moving up 1-0 here in this match.
Yeah, Noctis didn't really have a whole lot of answers when things got really scrappy. That Orisa comp is not typically one that can handle itself super well when you get split up. Usually you want to anchor around the Orisa and use it as your barricade for against the dive, but Oh No really only could try and run at the backline of Oomfie University, and with the mobility that Oomfie had, they could kind of just run at the backline of Noctis. The only one that didn't have, you know, the most crazy mobility on the side of Oomfie was Ronan, but Ronan went to Hydron School of Soldier 76 and was just on the flank the entire time, and Noctis didn't really have anything to, couldn't really do anything to him.
Yeah, he just kind of appeared, you know, it's like a wild Ronin appeared. It's a Pokemon battle at that point, just off on the flank, and all of a sudden your attention is split and you're not sure who you're going to go after. So a really rough start here for Noctis, but we're going to be moving over into Junkertown. Now, if we're going to take a look at maybe two maps that may be the complete opposites of each other, it might be New Queen Street and Junkertown. New Queen Street, very windy, very close quarters. You kind of have some long sight lines out in the middle because of the high ground, but nothing compared to the vast, wild, empty expanse that is Junkertown and Australia.
Yeah, Junkertown is going to be an interesting map to see these teams go into, because this is where the snipers could come out for either team if they have them, as well as potentially some more poke style comps. Obviously, Noctis was trying to play this Orisa comp. It didn't have a whole lot of success playing into the dive of Oomfie University, but if there was going to be a map where you might be able to have some more success on it, it would be Junkertown, because the sightlines are long enough. It does provide a natural buffer to a dive comp because there's a lot more ground that they have to A, cover, and B, gives you the opportunity as the defending team, or, you know, as the poke team, to try and get rid of the dive before they can get close enough to you. So we'll see if either team chooses to opt into a poke style of comp, or maybe we just see Oomfie University just run it down on dive again.
And you know what? Dive can work on Junkertown. You have to be very, I guess, disciplined on where you're taking those dives, because if you take the dive too deep, all of a sudden your supports that probably aren't as mobile aren't going to be able to heal you. I'm sure Hiccup has many bad memories of me jumping into the middle of nowhere where he can't see me and then just yells at me, "Why are you there? I can't help you." Then you also have the opportunity in Junkertown where it is a wide expanse. You may be in line of sight of your healers, but there's so many areas to cover on a dive composition, especially if the other team is playing those double sniper compositions or those poke compositions. It's going to be hard to lock down one particular area, and they can kind of circumvent your dive that way as well. So it will be interesting to touch on. One thing we saw last granted it was B League, this is C League, maybe a little bit different story, but we saw a cast ban for first map, and then they went straight into the Widow ban, right? They wanted to make sure that areas that had long sight lines were shut down. They didn't want to have to deal with anything. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Noctis doubles down, and you know what? Forget everything I said. They're going to the opposite end of the spectrum. No Genji on Junkertown.
Yeah, Noctis said we don't like your dive, Oomfie. Let's chill out with that. Now, granted, like, you can ban the Genji, but there's several other options to play dive if Oomfie want to do that. You can play Tracer, you can play Sombra, you can play Pharah if you want. I wouldn't recommend it on Junkertown, at least on point A. Those sightlines are wide enough, it's pretty easy to take a Pharah out of the sky. But obviously banning the Genji, I mean, it does make it a little more difficult to play a dive because now you will have to try and play a Tracer or a Sombra, which, especially for a flex DPS player, Genji is usually going to be the stronger of the heroes to play with a dive. So Noctis may be wanting to try and force some kind of poke, as well as it always could be a protect ban. They may want to make sure that they can play a Widow or even play a Freya to keep Oomfie University at bay. We could see Oomfie try and ban something away for a poke, like ban the Orisa or ban a Sigma to just prevent Noctis from being able to play the most optimal form of whatever poke comp they may want to try and play.
Yeah, and if you're Oomfie, I'm not sure if there's like a correct ban here, because you did so well on New Queen Street. You may just feel like you can just pick something that has general value, like you were talking about, maybe that Sigma, maybe the Orisa, right? It doesn't cut down on all of the options that they have, but it does cut out one thing, and there it is. The Orisa is going to be banned, and I think if you're wanting to stick to this dive that we saw Oomfie be so successful with, the Orisa versus Sigma, you ban the Orisa in that instance, just because if that Orisa is able to peel back for the team, it's extremely hard to get value if they're using those CC abilities right on that Winston.
Well, and I would say Orisa does have a lot more presence in that neutral space as you approach. Yeah, Sigma has the shield and he has his spheres, but they don't go near as far as most of Orisa's toolkit does. So if you're wanting to be able to try and approach a little bit more before you jump on a backline, Orisa is going to pose a lot more of a threat to your dive than a Sigma will, because it is a lot more easy to just kind of jump past the Sigma. So, and I mean, and we saw Noctis pretty much play Orisa all of New Queen Street to little success. So maybe Oomfie is just like, you wanted to play Orisa and you didn't have a ton of success, so what if we just ban the Orisa? Then what?
What are you going to do now? That is the challenge that's posed to Noctis. Again, both these teams sitting in the logjam that is C Division here, both at a pretty even spot, and so this can determine a lot of where that seeding is for the remainder of the season, as we are about at the halfway point here. So, Junkertown. Can't say it's one of my favorite maps. I'm not big on the snipers, so I'm curious to see what Noctis is going to start out on with this defense, and it is going to be a very poke-heavy composition as long as people are standing still. I feel like I'm gonna... Okay, the Zen Mercy? Please no. Let's not do that.
Okay.
Okay, there it is. Okay, I like the Ana Zen better. You've got the Widow, you've got the Ashe, you've got the Sigma, and it looks like if Oomfie is going to stay on this as well, we're gonna have a Widow and a Sig battle on our hands.
Yeah, and obviously now we see a few swaps. Like, so Bray is now in on the back line as Oomfie is choosing to come out on this Briggs and Yada comp, and I mean they're going full poke. Every single one of Oomfie is the Sig's just going to sit there, and the rest of Oomfie is just going to poke him down. Noctis is doing something very similar, but they're choosing to play the Ana instead, which I would say doesn't quite have as much poke potential as a BAP may have, but it may be what they're needing here.
Yeah, and when you're playing in these Sigma compositions, a lot of this is really going to be determined on which DPS, which sniper is going to be able to find that first pick, as these Sigmas are going to trade out in the neutral pretty frequently, as we see Ono and Volcarona having their way with each other. Lamp does have to be used by Obamna to keep up a Volcarona, and well, thinking almost took too many orbs to the head there, and there's the first pick. Ronin is going to find that first crucial pick, and that's going to put Noctis in a really difficult position, as now they're going to have to deal with both of these snipers at the same time as they take these double angles here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Virgil and Magic Otter, if you've got to keep Ronan and Xlera in check, otherwise they're going to be able to just enclose the rest of your team unchecked.
And there it is, Xlera and Bray taking out another Ronin, going to find one as well. Right as Virgil gets back to the fight, they have to back up. And now, Oomfie University, they may get a chance to cap this, but I think Noctis is going to contest here.
Yeah, and Noctis will almost have Thinking's Transcendence that they could use to help counteract Volcarona's Gravitic Flux. But obviously, Bray will have the one on the other side for Oh No's Flux. Well,
no.
Oh No just kind of fell over.
Yeah, definitely fell over. Wanted to get the touch. I don't think the bat signal was sent out to the rest of the team, and now second point is opened up. A good shot from Xlera onto Virgil there, and now this side of Noctis, they're having a rough time finding any value here. Oomfie University, these snipers are just unchecked, it feels like.
Yeah, and we see Virgil now opting to go over to the Sojourn. Doesn't want to match Ronin on this Ashmere anymore. Feels like they may be able to get a little more presence with Virgil's kit, but Ronin and Xlera are just having their way with Noctis.
Yeah, it seems like as soon as Noctis peeks their head out around any corner, their head is gone. It's just over. Both fluxes are going to be used. Oh no, going to find Obamna and Breath, but now Volcarona is going to take out Oh no, Xlera is going to take out Virgil, and this cart literally has not stopped moving once. The treasure inching ever closer to the throne of Junker Queen, as this point is going to be capped here. 5 minutes and 17 seconds going into third point is a staggering time bank.
I wouldn't say we even saw a fight on second point. It was just picks being traded, but there was no actual team fight that happened.
Yeah, no team fight actually happened. Maybe with this enclosed area here, maybe Noctis are going to be able to find a little bit more footing on this. Volcarona is already on this high ground, and that's going to put Oh No at a really awkward position. Does he stop the cart from moving, or does he go up and put pressure on the Sigma? The Sigma has dropped down for Volcarona, and now it's going to be a fight onto the cart. Transcendence going to be used by Bren. They know that Oh No doesn't have this flux, so they don't have to worry about it. In the meanwhile, though, Hops is going to fall, and now there's no Nano on board. Magic Otter is going to use the sights. Transcendence popped by Thinking as well. Magic Otter finally gets a pick onto Xlera. Window going to be popped here by Obamna as well. Bob being thrown out. Oomfie does not want to relinquish any pressure here on this point, and that Bob is going to do a great job of zoning Noctis here. But Oh No, going to finally fell the Bob. Virgil's on the high ground. That's exactly where you need to be. A great position here for Noctis to start getting some type of favorable position. But as I say that, Thinking and Oh No fall. And now everything that was starting to look good is crumbling at their feet. Volcarona takes out Hops. Virgil going to fall as well. And I guess we could call that a fight, but we may be in a position where the only fight we saw was on first point, and Thinking isn't able to get the rollout, isn't able to touch. 3 minutes and 37 seconds on the time bank for Oomfie.
Xlera and Ronin were just kind of unchecked for a large portion of that map. Noctis just could not find any footing, and as soon as it looked like they potentially were able to win that fight towards the tail end there and start getting some sort of presence on the map, Oomfie just turn it around, and they don't allow Noctis to take out the remaining individuals, and they just turn the fight and win it anyways. Noctis is having trouble winning in this poke mirror. There's not a whole lot that you can point to, like, composition-wise, they're about even. Like, Hops is choosing to play the Ana over the BAP, which arguably will give you a little bit less sustain. You don't have the immortality field, and your damage output onto the shields isn't going to be as great. But really, it just came down to, in the individual matchups, Virgil and Magic Otter were not able to keep Ronin and Xlera in check, which allowed them to just go wherever they wanted and get free picks off of Noctis, preventing real team fights from even breaking out. It was just a trading of picks rather than a fight.
Yeah, trading of picks rather than a fight, and we'll see how Noctis feels that they can do better on this attack, because maybe that's what they needed. Maybe they just need to be the one taking the aggression here and not being picked off one by one. Magic Otter is going to go over to this Hanzo. We'll see if it's just for the sonar or if they're opting to stay on it as well. A little bit more of a classic double sniper look. Oh my goodness, almost gets his head taken off by Xlera once again. Looking like Magic Otter wants to stay on this Hanzo, and we'll see if that is going to prove fruitful here, as we are just kind of in this poke phase looking for any picks. Virgil not able to find anybody off the rip, and now being pressured out here is Noctis, and what is looking like good news, that cart is moving here, not able to get the shot onto the Widowmaker. It's a very hard shot to hit, so I'm not surprised there. But now Magic Otter is being pressured down. Oh no, is pushing this cart, but the further it gets pushed, the harder it's going to be for the team to be able to support them, as the side of Oomfie has all of these angles locked down. Magic Otter going to fall as well, and right now it just looks like a stone wall of Oomfie University here.
Yeah, Ronan and Xlera have these. They were on opposite sides for a large portion of that, and while Noctis were trying to approach, those DPS being on those angles prevents the rest of Noctis that isn't Oh No from really being able to push too far forward.
And Ono taking a very aggressive push, a nice rock onto Volcanorona, and now that shield is gone. The Widowmaker is available to be looked at, not able to get there, falling very low, able to escape for the time being. Hop's gonna get taken out by Obamna, and Virgil gets a pick on Ronan. That's great. A good Flux is going to find two. It's going to get Volcarona very, very low, but not able to finish it off. Virgil does take out Xlera, and this is the opening that you need. No snipers on the field for Oomfie University, and now the Flux is going to come out from Volcarona. A good rock there from Oh No. Transcendence from Thinking is pulled out as well, but that's understandable there. Trading one for one. Transcendence still available here for Bruh. The window is going to be popped by Obamna. Magic Otter going to fall as well. Hop's going to take out Ronan, so now that Ashe is still gone. They only have to really worry about this Widowmaker on this far edge, but things are looking up here for Noctis. They have to capitalize on this, though.
Now we only really have DPS ults coming up from either side, and arguably Oomfie has a slight edge with a Bob, but you got to win the neutral fight first.
Yeah, you got to win the neutral. Bruh does get caught out. Oh No is going to fall, but we're under a minute and a half here, Hiccup. And really, while there have been individual picks, it looks like when they do come through for Noctis, they're not able to take advantage of that.
No, they try and take the space, but they aren't able to take care of people fast enough. So any of the picks that they do get eventually will come back faster. They're having trouble getting onto the back line of Thinking and Hops. Or on the side of Bray and Obama, they try to push forward, but Volcarona is doing a really good job at peeling back and trying to keep that back line safe.
They have to keep them safe. Under a minute here for first point for Noctis. They have to find these openings like they've done in the past. A good ping onto Xlera, but the shot is not there. They are pushing this Widowmaker, who's all the way out on the flank. A good idea on the rock there. Doesn't really need it. Hops in the backline. Magic Otter has gone off of the Hanzo and onto this Tracer to pressure out the backline here. Bob going to get thrown out, and the Gravitic Flux rock from Oh No is not able to hit this time. Good ultimate usage there from Oomfie, but now Noctis really just has his Transcendence and the Flux. 10 seconds left here.
If they can touch, they do have the ults to be able to stay in this fight with this Flux and this Trance. Yeah, Bray has a Trance, and Obama's coming up on a window, but I think the ult of Noctis could help them get through the end.
They have to get through this end. Window is going to be available for Obamna. There's the Gravitic Flux. The lamp is there to keep everybody up. Hops is going to take out Obamna. And now Xlera finally going to fall to the Tracer. That's exactly what you need. All the meanwhile, though, Virgil has fallen. Hops is back on the Lucio to give a little bit of support, but is caught out in this window. Transcendence is going to keep all of Oomfie University alive for the time being. Thinking is going to match that as well. Pulse Bomb getting thrown out by Magic Otter, not able to find anything, but Volcarona is gone. That Sigma is out of there, and now this is exactly what you need if you're Noctis. They do cap the point. Obviously not as big of a time bank, but at this point, you just want any small victory moving into the second point. But now the compositions are kind of everywhere as we had swaps to touch the point.
Yeah, we'll see if Virgil chooses to stay on the Soldier 76. Obviously, Magic Otter and Xlair have now gone over to Tracer, so the Widowmakers are off of the field. We just have the Ashes and the Ash and the Soldier 76 to deal with, which isn't... There's no one-shot potential anymore for either team to worry about.
No one-shot potentials unless you catch a full volley from Zen right to the dome, but obviously not something that happens all that often. Oh no, gonna use the float perk to get up onto this high ground. Window going to be popped in response by Abomination, and Hops is going to fall immediately there. So really like the idea of getting up onto that high ground here for Oh No. Does take out the Tracer, so a little bit of a one-for-one trade here.
Yeah, and now that does allow Magic Otter a little bit more free reign, and Ono is trying to take this high ground from Volcarona, but is being forced back in the stairwell.
Yeah, it's a Sig on Sig violence down here. Lamp is going to be used by Obamna to get him up and get him fully healed up. A good rock here. The Flux, he wants Volcarona so badly, but this Baptiste is going to make sure that that Sigma is going to stay up. All the meanwhile, Virgil is going to take out Xlair. Somebody needs to help. Oh no, get this man some help. Bob is going to get thrown up by Ronan. That's just going to zone everybody down in this little mega room right now. 1 minute and counting. Fight is going to be taking place in this little room. Can't say I've really seen a full fight happen here before. Maybe a one-on-one. But now that all the teams are trying to push through this high ground here, Flux is going to be pulled out, not able to get the rock. I'm not really sure where he went. He ended up behind, went over the top of Oh No. A great move there from Volcarona is going to stop this progress here, and they've only got 30 seconds. A desperate pulse bomb from Magic Otter doesn't find anything but a shield.
Typically, when you're wanting to play a poke comp, I wouldn't recommend going into a narrow hallway. It doesn't typically work very well for the team on the offensive side, and now Noctis do have Virgil's attack visor, but I mean,
oh no, well,
maybe
they
not.
had it, but it got blown to smithereens by Xlair, and now really what was the big issue for their win condition is now in spawn. Virgil's gonna have to use those legs to get back as quickly as he can, as overtime has started on the point. Xlair going to find Hops. Transcendence going to be popped to make sure that some healing is available to the team, but when you have a Lucio and a Zen, there's not a whole lot that can be done. Magic Otter's gonna be able to find one, but now there's no healing on the side of Noctis. Oh no is a lone Dutchman on the point. Virgil is back with that sights and does find one, but now there's another Dutchman and a Tracer. Virgil does take out the Tracer, and now it is America Power fighting against the evil that is Sigma here, and they are going to be able to force him back. Hops gets back on this Lucio, able to
finish him off.
But this is still, yeah, this point is still very contestable for the side of Oomfie University. They finally get the Sigma, and that is going to be able to get the cap. 1 minute and 30 seconds to finish out this map, and that was as close as it can get here. Hey, go.
That got extremely close to the end, especially because Volcarona was coming up on this Gravitic Flux. Had he been able to get it earlier, that probably would have been able to just take out the two that were on of Noctis, of Hops and Virgil, who are on the point, but they were able to force him back enough that he couldn't build it up. So now they get another Breath of Life, but they're still at an ult disadvantage.
They're still at a major ult disadvantage. They have to play this more carefully than what we've seen in the past. We do have Gravitic Fluxes on board. There's no Transcendences to stop a lot of that damage, and it's going to be Oh No that's going to start us off with that. Does catch the Sigma, gets him down onto the ground, but that lamp bounces off. I think was used by Obamna. Doesn't find purchase. Pulse Bomb gonna get thrown out. Xlair going to fall, and that's gonna be the cue for Bob to get pulled out. Volcarona gonna pull the side of Noctis into the air, and that's gonna be like shooting fish in a barrel here for Ronan. 30 seconds and counting here for Noctis. They do have the Pulse Bomb and maybe a visor coming up.
They are going into what will be a Transcendence and the window from Obama towards the tail end of the fight. Oomfie doesn't have it immediately, so Noctis might be able to try and take advantage of that. Crucially, though, Magic Otter does want to try and get this lamp out so that this Pulse Bomb might actually find some purchase.
Virgil is going to take out Xlair. That's a great start. Noctis has gone over to his Zen 10 Lucio backline, so not a lot of healing. They're going to be looking for these picks very carefully. Otter trying to get to this high ground off of the machinery and not able to get there. Oh no, is going to get pressured out, but it's going to be Volcarona that is also falling dangerously low. Somebody has to stay on the point, and that's going to be, oh no, the hands are used here. That gravitic grasp is used. Ronan going to take out Virgil. That tactical visor not able to find anything. Xlara going to find oh no as well. A great shot onto Magic Otter is Ronan, and everything has crumbled here for Noctis. What was win after win in the last seconds was not enough to overtake the power and dominance here of Oomfie University. They win this 2-0 and are gonna maybe move themselves out of that log jam that is this C League.
Yeah, Noctis just couldn't quite get the approaches that they wanted in what was pretty much a mirror the entire map. Every time they potentially got the upper hand, they either just could not finish off the kills that they needed, or they struggled to get space after getting those kills. Towards the end there, a lot of it was ults. They had some ults to try and win it, but they couldn't get the positions to try and take the people out with the ults that they had. So they just couldn't de-seat Oomfie, especially Ronan and Xlara, for the most part, especially on map, especially a new on the attack, on their attack, Oomfie's, they weren't pressured. The Noctis did a little bit to try and force them off of the Widow specifically for Xlara, but Ronan was on the Ashe the whole time and wasn't pressured a whole lot. So a lot of that came down to, it was just a mechanical difference at that point. The team compositions were practically similar for the most part, but I feel like Ronan and Xlara just had the upper hand, had the number of Oomfie. I mean, had the number of Noctis pretty much the entire match.
Yeah, the entire match, and sometimes you brought it up, sometimes Overwatch is a game of strategy, and other times, like we saw today, if you can click the head better, you're just gonna win. And that's really what Xlara did. We're going to take a look here. We're in the Cedar division of C League. That's going to move Oomfie up into second place just behind Boa, and that's going to bring Noctis down into sixth, going 2-2 just underneath Terrapin right now. So middle of the pack is kind of being leveled out here. We're kind of seeing exactly where everybody is going to stand going forward. I think we just are really waiting on Goatman and Log Racers to see what that is going to look like here into the next week.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're Noctis, a loss today, it does hurt, but you don't fall too far down. Like, you're tied with Terrapin other than the map differential, and depending on how Log Racers and Goatmen do in their matches in week 3, they may not be that far behind and may only need an extra win to try and get into that upper half. Oomfie, obviously, their only loss came to Boa, who is sitting at the top of C League right now, so they're in a pretty good spot moving forward. And as we see, obviously, later tonight, we'll see Boa and Log Racers play, and so that match will help the standings of C League into the remainder of week 3, see where Boa and Log Racers go, because if Log Racers win that helps them get an edge on to not only Oomfie but also Boa, because Oomfie may be able to tie them in the standings, if not jump them.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, Boa, Log Racers, that's going to be a match to watch. That's going to be over on our main channel here in about 15 minutes. But for Hiccup and myself, this has been a blast to be able to cast these 2 matches today, and a lot of action happening here on BPL Season 7. So make sure that you're following all the channels, you got your notifications on, that way you know when a match is there ready to go. But that's going to be it for us today. We have had an absolute blast. Make sure that you pack up all your tents, take them over to the mainstream, go check out that match over there for C League. But until next time, that's going to be it for us. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Your grace is love beyond all means. It breaks the chains and gives strength to the weak. When I am lost